Hamilton Township is the heart of Atlantic County, New Jersey. 2013 marks Hamilton's Bicentennial, commemorating a rich chapter of the state's history. In the last 2 centuries, the pastoral enclave has seen astounding growth and development as the result of early industrialization and has burgeoned into a thriving and diverse community, remaining replete with great natural beauty and strong commercial interests. Hamilton Township has become a center for civic leadership, hub of suburban life, valued recreation area, desirable site for business venture, and cherished locale for environmental preservation. It indeed resides at the heart of Atlantic County, providing its unique character, rooted in the past, but poised after 200 years for an even brighter future. Hamilton Township was originally inhabited by the Apsagami Indians, who were part of the Lenni Lenape tribe. These peaceful native peoples revered the land and its resources.
Okay, the area was originally settled, well, of course the Native Americans were here first, but after that, it was the English.
European settlers first arrived circa the turn of the 18th century, including Quakers and Methodist and Presbyterian missionaries. Swift development came in the early 1700s. Mays Landing began as Ilifftown in 1735, named after entrepreneur Edmund Iliff, who built a sawmill and homes along Babcock Creek. Soon thereafter, pioneering captain, shipbuilder, and blacksmith George May explored the Great Egg Harbor River and its adjoining oak and pine groves.
George May was who the town is actually named after. He came through and surveyed in 1746. He later bought the property from the sheriff's sale and settled here.
He eventually established a shipyard and trading post near Babcock Creek in 1756. Early papers notably recount how a trading schooner returned a cargo of sugar from the West Indies to May's Place, a grassy knoll on the high banks of the river adjacent to the creek, which was thereby designated as Sugar Hill.
It was built by William Moore, who was a state senator, in 1846.
On that site prior to that, it was probably just a mound of dirt, and there was a pier there. The Moore family owned it for many years. The Abbott family, who was also related to the Abbott family who has the Abbott House, they were cousins. They also lived there for many years. Not until the last 20 years did it become a bed and breakfast and become the Inn at Sugar Hill.
My dad bought it in 1987 and took a year and a half to renovate it, remodel it, and now he operates it as a bed and breakfast. We have 5 rooms that rent out pretty frequently, and an 85-seat restaurant. And then he's also extended it out by the water to have the Dockside Grill, which is our summer restaurant and bar outside.
Probably where George May's pier was located, and in fact that's how Mays Landing got its name. During the Revolutionary War, they would capture the British ships and bring them in. They would actually auction them off at May''S landing site, or his pier, and it probably would have been located right there.
Around the same time as Mays, John Hamilton purchased land about a half-mile above Mays's outpost on the south side of the river. This area became known as the Village of Hamilton. By 1778, the town center was recognized in name as Mays Landing after its maritime founder. During the Revolutionary War, Mays Landing flourished as a busy port and as a spot for privateering.
We were one of the main sites for the captured British ships. They had privateers, which were people who had license to go out and capture British ships by the government. You had to get a letter of marque. Technically they were pirates, but because they got the letter, we call them privateers. They would capture British ships and bring them up the Egg Harbor River to Mays Landing and auction them off.
During the 19th century, the area's fledgling communities grew alongside of its nascent industries. In 1813, Hamilton Township was officially founded as its population continued to grow and prosper due to ample employment. The shipbuilding industry continued to expand, reaching its zenith by mid-century and turning out hundreds of vessels. George Wheaton's shipyard was eminent, producing dozens of large schooners, some more than 100 feet in length.
Well, during the 1800s, we became an industrial community, more as it was the whole United States. We did iron at Weymouth. We had the brickyard developed over on Route 40. They formed the bricks from the clay pits in back of there. The bricks is what formed built most of your hotels in Atlantic City, the Traymore Hotel especially. We had the cotton mill come in 1868. That was one of the biggest industries in town, and almost everybody in town had somebody who worked in their family who worked there.
The area's first railroad was built around mid-century between Camden and Atlantic City, including a spur between Egg Harbor and Mays Landing. This early history is also colored and enhanced by folklore. There is a unique tradition of paranormal activity surrounding the area that's provided great insight into the social fabric of past generations. Stories about the ghosts of Mays Landing have fascinated residents and visitors, providing paranormal investigators and historians insight into the area's heritage. Ghost activity has been reported at numerous sites. It focuses on the Mays Landing Courthouse, where it was first reported, the Mays Landing Library, and predominates at the Abbott House Bed and Breakfast.
Original courthouse room, which is courtroom 2, and different people have heard her crying, and people have gone into the room to see who is crying in the room, and no one's been there. But that's all they've heard, is just a female voice crying.
There were a lot of reports of a lot of different things. One of the things that stands out in my mind is stuff would disappear. They would, a pen or something, it would be sitting there and turn around and it would be gone, and then it would show up like in another room or, on another desk or in a different place. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff, a lot of knocks and bumps, different feelings in different areas.
Well, the Abbott House was built by J.E.P. Abbott. He was the first lawyer in town, first prosecutor for the county. That was his private home at the time. There is supposed to be a woman that is seen in the hallway there. She's in a long dress. There's a child that they have, somebody reported being pushed down the steps by a child. And also up on the 3rd floor on the cupola inside the Widow's Walk, people have seen a man.
There's a lot of different spirits and a lot of different activity, and we didn't pick up on just one. I think, if, for example, in the basement, people got feelings of, I say fear, but definitely like it was darker, it was thicker, the air was thicker, there was tension. Different people described it differently as, they walked in and they felt off kilter or they felt dizzy. A lot of similar feelings, and in the basement it wasn't as good, and in other places they might have gotten impressions of, I know on the 1 floor there was a lot of impressions of changing, like the room had changed or the design had changed, and a lot of people moving, just like that movement.
While the hauntings may be controversial, the ghosts of Mays Landing help to enliven the rich history of Hamilton. As Hamilton Township grew during the 18th and 19th centuries, the need for official governance was created, and Mays Landing evolved into a civic center, as it remains today. Hamilton Township boasts the largest land area of any state municipality. It was established in 1813 from lands that once comprised parts of Egg Harbor and Weymouth Townships.
Originally, we were part of Egg Harbor Township, and in 1813 we became Hamilton Township, and through the years, different portions of the geographical areas have been changed.
We are the largest municipality in the state, over 115 square miles.
It is located in Atlantic County, which was established almost a quarter century later from parts of Gloucester County in 1837. That same year, the county's government was created. The first board of chosen freeholders, made up of representatives from the 4 townships of Galloway, Hamilton, Egg Harbor, and Weymouth, subsequently selected Mays Landing as the Atlantic County seat, its municipal and administrative center. Institutions to serve this enhanced role in the community thusly appeared. The first courthouse, which still proudly remains in use today, was constructed in 1838 on Main Street and was designed by Thomas Ustick Walter, a renowned Philadelphia architect. A few years later, the jail was moved from Captain John Pennington's private property on River Road, where court was previously held, and added to the new building. The Justice Organization brought many new business travelers into town who frequented the American Hotel, built across Main Street around the same time as the courthouse by local iron magnate Samuel Richards. The hotel also served as lodging for area iron workers and sponsored a transport train to Weymouth Furnace. After the train tragically crashed in 1888, new hotel ownership under George Washington Norcross transformed the enterprise into a luxury property which remarkably hosted famous figures during balls and political conventions.
At one time, it's had many owners. There's an actual book about the hotel written by Joe Capus, and giving the whole history of the building, because it's very fascinating. At one point, it was called the Russian Embassy, because so many Russian people around the early 1900s moved to Mays Landing area, and that's where they lived.
This surviving historic hotel structure interestingly now houses the main branch and headquarters of the Atlantic County Library System.
Okay, the library was on the original site of Westcott's Hotel. That was torn down in the 1840s, and the present building was built there as a hotel.
But before that, the earliest library in Mays Landing was originally located on West 2nd Street in the American Legion building. By 1926, there were 4 local libraries along with collections at numerous area grammar and high schools. After a lull that year established the Atlantic County Library System, the main Mays Landing Library moved into another locale in town at the Surrogate's office, where it remained for almost 30 years until reaching its current site at the corner of Main Street and Farragut Avenue circa 1981. The townscape of downtown Mays Landing thereby transformed as a result of its pivotal civic function, and the distinctive judicio-political identity of Hamilton Township was elevated.
The first mayor of our township in 1813 was Frederick Steelman.
Over the years, the county political system has grown and was changed to the executive form in 1974, providing for an elected administrative county executive and a 9-member legislative freeholder board. Today, on the local level, Hamilton Township is governed by Township Committee. This 5-member committee is elected to staggered 3-year terms. Each January, the council elects 1 member as a mayor and a deputy mayor.
In our form of government, which is the township form of government, we have 5 committee members in the government, and the mayor is selected as the chairperson for the year.
First female mayor was Barbara Sorrentino.
Chairperson, mayor, some think it's ceremonial, but actually it involves a lot more work than the average person would understand unless you were in that position.
Currently, the youngest member to hold the office of mayor has been Amy Gatto.
The township form of government with the 5 committee people, each one of us has a liaison with the different departments of the township.
On the state and national level, Hamilton Township is located in the 2nd Congressional District, represented by Republican Frank Lobiondo, and is part of New Jersey's 2nd State Legislative District, represented in the United States Senate by Democrats Frank Lautenberg and Bob Menendez. Mays Landing remains the county seat, and with municipal additions like the current Atlantic County Justice Facility in 1985 and the new Town Hall in 1992, blends its past and present public importance and manifests the civil distinction of Hamilton Township.
If you look at government today, it's a lot more open. Technology has made tremendous changes with bringing the focal point of government into the living room. The meetings are now videotaped. There's a lot of videoing of the different meetings. It gives the people who don't have an opportunity to attend meetings to view them. Websites have expanded. People can go online and they can get the copies of all the minutes from every meeting.
Hamilton is also a special place because of its geography. The most important factor underlying the flourishing of civilization historically there perhaps has been the nature of the land and its use. The relationship of the area's inhabitants to its natural features have propelled development and characterized its uniqueness. People and nature have come full circle in Hamilton. Its native Indian inhabitants lived in great deference towards their surroundings, maintaining their culture and nature-based religion with little disturbance to the order of the land. The Greater Egg Harbor River and its tributaries sustained native cultures and then brought the Europeans in the 18th century.
The people that followed the river down originally were the Native Americans.
During the 18th and 19th centuries, development and industry all relied upon the area's natural resources of timber, bog iron, and sand.
Well, the river is why we became so industrialized in this area, because this was the main thoroughfare. Anyone who had a river, would have businesses built up around it.
The soil, however, though able to support a variety of plant life and game, was found inhospitable to traditional crop cultivation, and the lush pine lands on which Hamilton Township resides got nicknamed the Pine Barrens. The whole of the Pine Barrens is a densely forested coastal plain. It covers more than 7 modern counties of southern New Jersey and is the largest surviving open space on the eastern seaboard between Maine's North Forests and the Florida Everglades. While the Pinelands supported settlement in days gone by and allowed for industries like shipbuilding, cotton, paper, saw, and grist milling, as well as glass and charcoal making to prosper to varying degrees, over the years, the forest has reclaimed much of its ground as only remnants, such as at Weymouth Furnace, of Hamilton's industrial past survived. This reclamation may illustrate nature's attempt to find ecological balance. Certainly that balance was on people's minds by the mid-20th century as modern development increased exponentially in the area once again after World War II. Some scientists, citizens, and politicians recognized that the resultant sprawl consuming New Jersey's open spaces threatened the Pinelands, especially the crucial water supply in embeds, which feeds the Kirkwood-Cohansey Aquifer, reportedly containing some of the country's purest water. Their efforts persuaded Congress to pass legislation in 1978 creating the New Jersey Pinelands National Reserve, the country's first, under the National Parks and Recreation Act. Thereby, 1.1 million acres occupying 22% of the state's land area came under environmental protection. The next year, New Jersey passed the Pinelands Protection Act. These laws also created the New Jersey Pinelands Commission, an independent state and federal agency which strictly regulates development in the reserve through a comprehensive management plan. These creative rules designate allowable growth zones around the Pinelands perimeter, along with stringent environmental standards for their development. The plan also identifies large interior forest tracts for permanent conservation. The United Nations furthermore has recognized the Pinelands as an international biosphere reserve. As a part of the Pinelands, the western 3/4 of Hamilton Township remains an undisturbed forest in the reserve. The eastern quarter falls into a regional growth area where development has been encouraged and which is home to most township residents. Hamilton has thereby become a unique geographic blend of pristine rural wilderness and bustling suburb. This mix may reflect the re-emerging attitude of living in harmony with nature in ecological balance, a valuable vestige of Hamilton's past, and may demonstrate giving back to the entity which made the township in the first place its natural habitat. Diversity, as seen in Hamilton Township's geography, also characterizes its places and people and underlies the strength of its vibrant community life. While early communities focused around the Greater Egg Harbor River.
So the river was very important to the township being built up as far as population and people moving here from other areas.
And concentrated in the vicinity of Mays Landing. Township now additionally comprises other towns.
for Mays Landing and that smaller community now to the much broader community of the Township of Hamilton. We took the theme, Now We Are One, bringing together the various communities. I mean, there is Mays Landing, there is Laureldale, there's Weymouth, there's Mizpah, there's Cologne, and then you have some smaller areas that may be more affiliated with one community than another. Clarktown, Bears Head, Catawba, Riga, and DeCosta.
Township communities feature a synergistic mix of contemporary and historic suburban, rural, and semi-rural neighborhoods, which reflect a wide cultural and socioeconomic diversity, blending small hometown appeal with modern convenience. The preservation of numerous older residences and historic places gives Hamilton a distinctive manner and charm. The Mays Landing Historic District was recognized by the National Register of Historic Places in 1990. The Historic District, centered on a traditional main street, is a large section of the town which features a combination of Second Empire, Greek Revival, and Victorian architecture styles, preserving the late 19th and early 20th century village ambiance.
We aren't the only place of buildings and of historic significance, but it's the only place that is an historic district.
Other areas retain a semi-rural or even rural feel, especially in spots where modern methods have allowed for some farming such as of cranberries and blueberries. Most communities have a suburban atmosphere. Many residential housing developments have also been built to accommodate a growing number of inhabitants.
It's a mix of housing. It's condominiums, townhouses, development of 55 plus.
What began as a small population of European immigrants in the hundreds had grown by the mid-19th century to around 2,000 people. According to the census of 1860, due to the maritime industries and in part to the influx of professionals and others after Mays Landing became the county seat. The population has had several other periods of dramatic increase. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, opportunity from the cotton mill industry, which offered company housing, shopping, and credit, lured many, including Eastern Europeans. Even greater numbers came post-World War II, and after the casino industry started in 1978. By 1980, there were almost 10,000 people living in Hamilton Township.
Really affected the growth in this area more than anything was the casinos in 1978 when they came in, where the casinos brought a lot more people.
Now that number has swelled to over 26,000 and includes a wide variety of European, Asian, Middle Eastern, African, and numerous other cultures and ethnic identities.
The township has changed from a small population to a much, much larger population, from 6,000 to 27,000. And
social venues and services multiplied over time to serve growing populations. Places of worship and schools have always been an important part of community life. Historically, the Presbyterian Church was founded in 1841.
In addition to being part of a historic district, it's entered into the National Historic and the New Jersey Historic Registers.
And the Methodist Church in 1848, both on Main Street, Mays Landing. An area Baptist church appeared early on, and the Roman Catholic Church, necessitated by the Eastern European influx, came around the turn of the 20th century.
The Catholic Church didn't even get formed until 1903, 1904. The McGarry family, they had a big push. They used to meet in Mrs. McGarry's home to have Catholic services, and they pushed to have a church.
She was very active in getting it started, starting like in her living room, having like Sunday school classes, and then going to the diocese and requesting that Mays Landing get a church, which they were, in their minds, they were thinking of it anyway, but she was very instrumental in that.
And now, Hamilton boasts numerous places of worship. Public schools have been around reportedly since 1833. The first schoolhouse was on Main Street.
The first school that I do know of, there was a meeting house on where the bank is on Main Street. They did have schooling there for the children. Later on, we do know that the Presbyterian Church, people graduated, had a schooling there from their basement. And over the years, we've had a couple of one-room schoolhouses. We have one at Gravelly Run that's become a private home. We have the one that we have our museum in. That wasn't built till 1903, though. Where the florist is now was a pharmacy before. Above there, they had classrooms. Schooling and building, and look now.
Today, the George Hess, William Davies, and Joseph Shaner middle schools make up the Hamilton School District.
And they're all just grammar schools before they even get to high school.
The township and their schools have seen their share of growth.
First, some additions to the Shaner School.
My husband, he grew up here in Mays Landing also, became a teacher, went on to become principal at the Shaner School. He went in there, it was like from kindergarten through 5th grade, and by the time he left, there was only one grade. It had grown so big, they put an addition on the school, like 18 rooms, and they dedicated that to him.
And then the first big school was the Davies School, which just celebrated its 25th anniversary. Subsequent to that, in early 1990, I guess, or 91, was the Hess Educational Complex, which at the time was the biggest elementary school in the entire state, with 1,500 students.
With the community growing as well as its schools, the township realized a need for its own high school.
It used to be Duberson School that went grades kindergarten through 10 in one building on Farragut Avenue.
And over the years, students would go to Pleasantville, or Atlantic City, or Vineland. Mid-50s, planning got underway of 5 municipalities create a regional high school. So there was a real identity formed around Oakcrest High School. And so that opened, and that was a major accomplishment, and the excitement about that, and this had such a big impact.
I think it's huge. Almost every kid that went through the Mays Landing school system eventually came to Oakcrest High School.
St. Vincent de Paul Catholic School was founded in Mays Landing in 1961 and remains a parochial elementary institution.
But you also had the community college developed in the mid-60s.
The Atlantic Cape Community College, which was the second community college established in the state of New Jersey, had its campus relocated to Mays Landing in 1968.
And then the Atlantic County Vocational School, which became the Atlantic County Institute of Technology.
ACIT was opened in 1974 to provide vocational instruction to young people and adults. The Department of Education awarded them Blue Ribbon status in 2008. And today, ACIT is a 4-year county-wide vocational public high school.
And the Special Services School District, so there's this broad range of educational opportunities in the township now.
While a melting pot, Hamilton's singular spirit and strength of community life has always and continues to appeal to those wanting to settle in the township and even give back to the place they call home.
Because that develops a community spirit, which I think Mays Landing has as a small community, having moved here from another area.
For me, it's that joy of a community, of walking downtown and seeing all sorts of different people.
I wanted to get involved in my community, so I ran for school board because I wanted the kids of this community to have the same wonderful experience that I had growing up here. I could make sure that the new residents that were moving in were going to experience the same type of town that I grew up in and that I came to love.
People have frequented Hamilton Township not only to work and live, but to enjoy its numerous outdoor and indoor leisure activities, likely since its inception.
Our town is about 113 square miles. We're anchored between two bodies of water to have an anchor at one end of the town being the lake and the anchor at the other end of the town being the river.
The so-called Great Outdoors has many sites in the township for various types of recreation, from water-related activities such as fishing, boating, swimming, tubing, canoeing, and kayaking, to other sporting activities like walking, hiking, bicycling, golfing, and tennis, to leisure activities such as beach going and sunbathing. Lots of spots for socializing, exercise, and fun exist. Perhaps the most popular place for outdoor recreation is Lake Lenape Park in Mays Landing.
The Native Americans followed the river down. Originally, they came from eastern Pennsylvania and above Trenton, would go to the shore every year to go down and do fishing and go back every year. So campsites along Lake Lenape, you can still find where Native Americans where they camped.
Lake Lenape, named for the area's native Lenape Indians, is a man-made water feature created in the 1840s through the construction of the county's oldest and largest dam.
It was started in 1846 when they built the dam.
Lenape Park, which sits on the west bank, opened in the early 1900s and was originally known as Lylings Park after the owners.
It opened up in 1903 by the Lyland family. It was done as a commercial enterprise for them, but people came from all over the state and Philadelphia to come down and have these Sunday picnics.
Early on, the lake area was accessible to park visitors via the beach's ferry boat.
They would get the boat at the end of Main Street and the boat would take them around to the park. Or they actually would get off the train over at Gaskell Park. A horse and wagon would bring them over.
There was also a skating rink built over the lake where summer visitors could rent rooms on the second floor.
I spent a lot of time at Lenape Park as a child because in fact my aunt was married to one of the people that built the park.
In 1943, the Lylings added a lighthouse-style structure,
My uncle built the tower, the musical tower.
which still stands on a small fabricated island in the middle of the lake. The quaint lighthouse has a semi-spiral staircase and 5 floors. It was known as the Singing Tower since hymns were played from its speakers during summer seasons until 1960.
And on the lake, annually a powerboat race on the lake in a variety of different categories and has been for decades. There is boating on the lake. Crew races are held there and crew practices year-round.
Lake Lenape Park is now part of the Atlantic County Park System. Additional wilderness areas and open spaces have also been designated or built into parks. There are at least 6 other parks in Hamilton as part of the county park system, including at Weymouth Furnace.
It's a delight to have a park with a fountain and the lady in the fountain and the water, and have it decorated at Christmas time.
These various areas offer trails, playgrounds, leisure areas, and more for visitors. Gaskell Park in downtown historic Mays Landing is another noteworthy destination.
A beautiful park with a gazebo.
It was named after Gaskell because he had his shipyard right there at that site. And there was no river road that goes along. The bulkhead was built in 1929. They landfilled that area there. And there's actually 3 ships buried in there as landfill. One of them's called the Dove. It was 1929 that you had the park.
The Greater Egg Harbor River is an enduring place for ecotourism in Hamilton. It is said to have gotten its name from Dutch explorer Cornelius May in 1614, who was impressed by the abundance of shorebird and waterfowl eggs he found upon arrival. The river's 55-mile stretch begins near Berlin, New Jersey, after which it picks up volume and widens on its berth to Great Egg Harbor and then to the Atlantic Ocean.
It flows down from Berlin through Folsom and then Weymouth into Mays Landing, and then down, past us is past the bulkhead where the river begins to widen.
The river is remarkable for its brown color created by the iron and tannin content of its cedar waters.
Also, all along the way is draining things. It's a watershed area, and important for that regard that it's that volume that it reaches as it moves into the Great Egg Bay stems from the fact that it has drained so many other square miles through streams.
Nearly all the river system falls into the Pinelands Reserve. Congress has identified it as the Great Egg Harbor Scenic and Recreational River, and since 1992 has protected it as part of the National Wild and Scenic River System.
It's just become a protected river, and it is now, it's the Great Egg Harbor River. It's under federal protection. And
the Great Egg Harbor River is a wild and scenic river designation, and so that limits what kind of development can be done along it.
The Greater Egg Harbor is the longest canoeing river in the Pinelands.
There's tubing and kayaking and canoeing down the Great Egg Harbor River from up in the Weymouth section.
It is regarded as one of the top 10 birding locales in North America by the National Park Service. Historically, the nudist beach that once existed at Sunshine Park in Mays Landing is perhaps the most colorful and eclectic recreation site in Hamilton.
When it began in the 1930s, nudism was very rare in this country.
The colony was located on 100 acres along the Egg Harbor River, branded the first nudist resort in America. It was founded in 1931 as a health club, but shortly evolved as part of the growing social naturalist movement.
It's a curiosity to people outside of the area. It was well known.
It was started by Baptist minister Reverend Isley Boone, a national leader of the nudist era. He served as secretary and then long-standing president of the American League for Physical Culture, America's first nudist organization, which he later renamed the American Sunbathing Association and nationally headquartered at Sunshine Park.
Isley Boone, who was the founder of Sunshine Park, was very active in the nudist movement. And the American Sunbathing Association's headquarters were right here on Main Street.
Boone also published the first American nudist magazine, called The Nudist, later retitled Sunshine and Health, which was printed through the 1980s, making it the longest published nudist magazine in the U.S. For about half the 20th century, Sunshine Park hosted thousands of men, women, and children.
It did have national recognition.
It was prominently featured by famous photographer Diane Arbus in 1963.
It was a factor in the community in identifying it, and it's fascinating.
Hamilton Township boasts a few highly regarded golf courses, too, that play through the Pinelands.
It has Joe Victor's Golf, which is out on Route 40, and it's a par 3 golf course. And then it has a 9-hole course.
Hamilton Trails Golf Club, formerly Hamilton Trails Country Club, holds the distinction of being the shore's only 9-hole regulation length course. The championship course has water hazards on every hole and is known for its flat tree-lined fairways and large, fast greens.
It has an 18-hole golf course, the Mays Landing Country Club.
The Mays Landing Golf and Country Club is a full 18-hole course designed by golf pioneer and past Professional Golf Association president Leo Frazier. It opened in 1962 with a celebrated exhibition match between Sam Snead and Tony Lima. It sits on 175 acres and has numerous amenities, including a full staff of PGA professionals for individual or group lessons, driving range, and chipping and putting greens. It also has a clubhouse featuring a pro shop, grill room, and catering space. It is highly rated by Golf Digest and is known as a challenging and well-maintained course with affordable green fees, since Frazier believed the sport should be accessible and enjoyed by everyone. Young's Skating Center in Mays Landing is a top spot for indoor fun. It was opened in 1978 and has provided thousands of children and adults a memorable roller and inline skating experience. Young's also offers lessons, adult and youth roller hockey, and speed skating, and hosts parties and special events. Other properties have been developed in Hamilton over the years for indoor recreation. Many modern locations featuring shopping, restaurants, and movie theaters and more dot the township, especially along routes 40, 322, and 50, the main retail district.
Activities in the town for people to do.
There's a host of recreational activities.
Hamilton Township has many things to see and do that cater to all ages and interests. Commercial enterprises have driven the growth of Hamilton Township since the beginning. Numerous retail outlets now conveniently serve residents and bring many people and dollars into the municipality.
It's a Mays Landing Merchants Association, however, it's actually broader than that, stretched out beyond Mays Landing. It's a Hamilton Township.
Members that represent well outside of the Main Street area, all the way out to the mall, the Black Horse Pike corridor, all the new restaurants and businesses opening out at these mini shopping centers and new locations around the township.
Entrepreneurship has always been a factor in Hamilton's social fabric. Accounts note that as early as 1778, Colonel Richard Westcott had built a store and tavern near present-day buildings in downtown Mays Landing to cater to the earliest community. About a century later, records indicate that Joseph Veal erected a building housing a store, post office, and loan office on Main Street, where many more small businesses and storefronts would spring up from the late 19th through mid-20th century, building up the downtown area. Hamilton Township's specific location served the town well for its growth in business and trade.
And think about all the changes that have come to your community, the number of roads that are here now. And 200 years ago, some of them were only paths traversed by a horse and buggy.
You know, Mays Landing happens to be one of the few places that you can cross the Egg Harbor River, or it was at that time. So your railroad came through town. The railroad came in about mid-1860s. We actually had 4 railroad stops in town. Atlantic City was being built up, and everybody wanted a way to the shore.
And when you look at the traffic coming through our township, we are the crossroads of the county. We've got all these major roads.
Route 40, 322, that was like a center hub.
The Black Horse Pike, the Expressway, Wrangell Road, that alone brings hundreds of thousands of people through our township over the course of a year.
The amount of traffic flow through town is that's the amazing part.
By the mid-20th century, even car dealerships, repair shops, gas stations, and pharmacies were established, keeping up with an increasingly sophisticated society. Many merchants still have shops there.
I'm owner of County Seat Florist here in Mays Landing.
My name is Chris Groom. I own Brownie Square Big Shop on Main Street.
These days, the Hamilton Mall in Mays Landing is the main retail destination in Hamilton Township and the largest mall in the Atlantic County area.
First, a strip mall of 4 or 5 stores, and then the Festival was the first mini mall, you might say, where the Acme was the anchor store, and there were maybe 20 other stores. And then finally, you had the major construction of the Hamilton Mall.
It opened in 1987 adjacent to Route 40 and the Black Horse Pike on a 104-acre tract that originally provided parking space to the Atlantic City Racecourse. Its construction cost $100 million.
Well, when our first mall opened up out here in the Hamilton Township, there were people that would come from down King Courthouse, and people would come from up in Ocean County because they had access from the Parkway to the Expressway, and then they would drop off right there at the mall.
The 2-story enclosed mall contains more than 140 stores, an upper-level food court, and several restaurants. Macy's, Sears, and JCPenney are the large premier retailers which anchor the property. Several other chain restaurants operate on parking lot pad sites. The mall had an $8 million renovation early in the 21st century when
Walmart and Consumer Square, and then finally Hamilton Commons
were developed in the immediate Black Horse Pike vicinity.
It became a regional shopping center and continues to evolve. There's major renovations going on at Hamilton Mall, not only adding stores, but it's updating its presentation. There's going to be another power center built across from Hamilton Commons and Consumer Square, tentatively named Gravelly Run.
It has evolved into a major retail corridor with every manner of chain and non-chain store to satisfy all modern tastes, styles, and needs. Another commercial area draw is the Atlantic City Racecourse for thoroughbred horses, located next to the Hamilton Mall.
Well, the racetrack is on land that was donated by Mr. Underhill.
It spans more than 250 acres and can hold 25,000 visitors with a seating capacity of 10,000. The main dirt oval-shaped track runs 1 1/8 miles long, and the inner turf course runs 1 mile. Each are 100 feet wide. The race course opened in 1946 and was formerly called the Atlantic City Racetrack.
in the heyday of the track was an event. Many of the jockeys or trainers, you know, who would spend the 2 months here and then go to Garden State or the Monmouth, would live in area homes, just not in Hamilton Township, but throughout the area. People would provide them with a room. And it brought a lot of activity. They were getting 13 to 18,000 people a day during that racing season. It attracted a lot of key people.
Original celebrity shareholders included Bob Hope and Frank Sinatra. In the mid-20th century, it was one of the most eminent track venues in the country.
In the region, it was a major attraction.
While in the past, the track hosted live stand-up and harness jockey racing,
only has opened recently for several days of live racing, where all the horses are brought in. They're not housed there anymore.
Now it is primarily a simulcast facility and only offers live racing about a week each year. A distinctive business venture also in Mays Landing is the Bicentennial Winery, one of the state's largest wine growers. It has 57 acres of grapes under cultivation and offers a variety of more than 27 red, white, and fruit wines for sale. Its vineyards were originally planted in the early 1900s by descendants of Mays Landing earliest settlers. They were acquired in 1966 by Savo Balak, an Adriatic Sea immigrant and wine grower, who then opened the winery named after him. Balak is the third oldest active winery in New Jersey and is now run by the founder's nephew. New business ventures seem to be popping up every day and on every corner of Hamilton Township.
There's commercial development along the major highways.
The Merchants Association produced a map and went into the planning of it that we realized how much this township had to offer.
With the ongoing influx of capital and ideas, its commercial potential appears boundless.
I've seen businesses develop now. There's more applications coming in for new businesses in town.
There's room for more to grow.
As the Township of Hamilton celebrates its bicentennial.
In memory of our founders and of that first meeting, I am honored to have everybody join me to help cut this ribbon on our 200th birthday celebration. So everybody ready? Ready. 1, 2, 3, cut it!
The occasion reminds us of the saying that you can't tell where you're going until you know where you've been.
For us to be able to look back at our history and where we came from really helps us to drive where we're going in our future, and it's so important to remember where we've been.
The last 200 years in Hamilton reveal an extraordinary history.
The 200th celebration is a culmination to me of this town's history, which is rich and which is meaningful and which gives us some great foundation and building blocks on which this town is born and has therefore grown from.
It's a historic event, and I look forward to being part of it.
It's just amazing what's right here in Hamilton Township.
Its rise to civil prominence, budding of environmental awareness, coalescing of community organization, flourishing of recreational activities, and commitment to commercial ventures sets it apart.
That's a good fine balance.
We're so diverse.
You can take advantage of the outdoors through the parks, the woods and nature, as well as the water.
To having our commercial district and being able to shop and do all kinds of family activities at the movies and
the colleges and schools.
Our tourism, our trade, our businesses, and our residents are pretty well combined.
It's just a pleasure living in that kind of setting.
Is a sign that people are working together, and the businesses are a big part of that. So we're going to continue to see Hamilton Township grow in a positive way.
The town and community has come together to forge a strong, unified identity, steeped in its own heritage and made a unique place in the world to endure for more years to come.
It's that joy of a community.
It was a great sense of the community then, and I believe it will be the same now.
Wow, look what Hamilton Township has to offer.